Welcome to a brand new Into the Astrallands podcast. I'm your host, Eric Malikyte, and today I've got a special guest, and his name is Jonathan D. Clark. He's the author of the upcoming novel Arcadia, which is coming out on January 29th. Jonathan, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself?
All right, I'm Jonathan D. Clark. I am a California native living in Northern California in a small town called Redding, about 2 hours north of Sacramento.
I've been through Redding.
Oh, yeah, we're like the last in and out before you hit the desolate state of Oregon and Washington.
Yeah, I've been up to Mount Shasta, Yosemite, all those wonderful places.
Yeah, I think that it's funny because we have the Sundial Bridge, which is what we're not known for. We're known for the In and Out.
The final In and Out.
The final In and Out, yeah.
I haven't had In-N-Out in years because I'm on the East Coast now, but I don't miss In-N-Out. I miss good Mexican food more than anything else.
Actually, yeah, I spent 2 years in Florida because my wife was in the Navy, and you could get good Mexican food to save your life in Florida. And moving back here, that was the first thing we had was Mexican food.
Absolutely. Oh man, I had a craving for tacos, so I went to this local place. Luckily, they had decent tacos, but it's still not the same as like going to San Diego or Riverside and just getting just stuff that's bad for you. A California burrito or something like that, carne asada fries. Oh god, it's so good.
Ugh. Yeah, I think the closest we could get to anything decent was this like hole in the wall in Florida, and it wasn't even close.
All right, well that's cool. Why don't you tell us about Arcadia?
All right. Well, Arcadia is a post-apocalyptic novel. It takes place 400 years after the bombs fell, which the date which the bombs fall in the novel is January 25th, 1995. And the main character, Tom Dolan, is a science fiction writer who, unbeknownst to him, has been living in a sort of digital reality known as Arcadia his entire life. And when he's awoken, he begins to question reality itself, and even while he's in the quote-unquote real world, things appear not as they seem, which even make him question whether or not the real world is real itself.
Interesting. So it kind of sounds like you got sort of a Matrix, Terminator, Truman Show type Fallout vibe going on here too.
I've never had it put that way, but that's actually pretty spot on.
Hey, I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good at that. So.
I've heard the Matrix thing like through people on Twitter, but like the rest of it's like, yeah, actually that's pretty accurate, especially the Truman Show vibe.
Yeah, I love that film. I don't think enough people appreciate that film for what it is. I mean, it's definitely beloved, I think, but I don't think it gets nearly as much notoriety as it should.
It really doesn't. And it like, especially if you're a fan of sort of those fake reality concepts, kind of like early Philip K. Dick novels, there's an appreciation for the Truman Show that just kind of satisfy that itch for that kind of stuff.
Absolutely. So speaking of Philip K. Dick, have you been watching Philip K. Dick's Electric Dreams?
I have not. I rarely watch television. I mostly read. The only time television is on is when my wife is home, and it's usually some kind of like HGTV stuff.
Do it yourself.
Yeah, or
channel.
like those reality TV shows where it's like there's one she's watching where it's like an Australian instant hotel thing.
Nice. Yeah, I don't have cable myself. I refuse to get cable because I have no use for it. I love movies. I love storytelling in general. But so I stick to Netflix, and like I have an Amazon Prime account that I might not renew in March because I don't use it that much.
Yeah. Yeah, all we have is Netflix and Hulu, and I've never once had Amazon Prime.
Yeah, I don't blame you. So it's coming out on January 29th, right?
Correct.
All right. So you also mentioned that you've got 2 other books out.
Yeah, I've got 2 other books out. They were published under a slightly different name. I used my initials JD Clark instead of Jonathan D. Clark, mostly out of sort of like anonymity, because they were more personal novels, kind of like me finding my footing in the writing process.
Mm-hmm.
But I enjoyed them so much once they were finished that I did end up publishing them, but I haven't gotten around to maybe updating them to where they have the Jonathan D. Clark to the name. So it's easier to find my work as a collective whole instead of looking for a different author altogether, kind of.
So this is going to be, I'm supposed to talk about this in March, but I registered my copyright for my debut novel with the Library of Congress, and I actually got stalked by a vanity publisher.
Uh-huh.
They looked up my my author name, and then they looked up my real name, found my phone number somehow, and like cold called me at work. Have you had anything like that happen to you?
I've had quite a few, like ex libris, I think is how it's pronounced. I don't listen to the voicemails. I just read the transcript. But they're obviously vanity publishers because I've looked them up and whatnot. But I've had like maybe 4 calls, and they're asking like, when's your novel going to be done? It's like, it's been done. I'm not going to go with you.
Yeah, I even spoke to somebody on the phone. She was very upset that I did not take their scam.
I read on Twitter like someone, maybe it was you, I don't know, but like they actually talked to someone and they were very aggressive with being turned down.
It might have been me actually, because I got an email after she hung up saying good luck.
Oh, yeah, that might have been you, because the person shared an email thing saying that.
I don't remember sharing the email. Yeah, their president actually sent me an email, and in the email it says, because, Writer Beware talks about them under one of their other DBAs. I don't remember exactly what the DBA is, but they gave them a scathing review. They're terrible. And they're just, like, the first line is all in caps and says, I read it on the internet, so it must be true, right? Yeah, I stopped there.
Yeah, every time that they call, I block the number that calls me. I'm like, yeah, you're not going to get through.
It's just ridiculous that they do that. But anyway, back to Arcadia. So I'm guessing you were pretty well influenced by early science fiction, like 80s and 90s science fiction films, right?
Correct. That and the early 60s, 70s sort of literature where, they do kind of ask the questions of what is real, what is identity kind of thing.
Yeah. I always find stuff like that, even especially in recent examples, like Black Mirror does that really well. Have you seen the Black Mirror film?
I saw the first 3 episodes of season 1. Took me a while to get past the first episode, to be honest.
Yeah. The pig,
yeah. I was like, I mean, of course, while I'm watching it, I'm like half of me is like, don't show it, but then the other half is like, come on, show it. Like, it really splits your brain in half of how much you want to see. And then when it does occur, it's like, okay.
I always tell people to start with seasons 3 and 4 and then go back to older episodes, because 3 and 4 is really where the quality comes. There's some good shit in season 1 and 2, but 3 and 4 and the movie, it's good. It's good stuff. Especially if you like that kind of mind-bending Philip K. Dick, Twilight Zone-esque Rod Serling writing.
Okay. It's called Bandersnatch or something like that?
Yeah. It's essentially like a choose-your-own-adventure film, and it's just... It's really good. It's almost got a cosmic horror vibe running through parts of it, depending on the choices that you make.
Oh, you actually do make choices. It's not just like...
Yeah, you make choices.
Okay, now I'm actually intrigued.
Yeah, you don't actually have to have watched Black Mirror before to watch the movie either. I mean,
okay.
It makes references to other Black Mirror episodes, like Metalhead, which I definitely recommend watching eventually, but it doesn't spoil them at all.
Okay. Yeah, I read somewhere, I guess, like there's an author in the movie, like, who, I guess, killed his wife or something like that.
I think it's a fictional author in the film.
Yeah, he's a fictional author, and I read somewhere that even though Philip K. Dick didn't kill his wife, the paranoia of the author was influenced by him.
Yeah, Philip K. Dick was... I've heard some interviews from him where he's like on panels, and he thought he was could tell the future. I'll say that much.
He pretty much talked about The Matrix in 1977 before The Matrix was The Matrix.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he went so far as to say that he was experiencing the future as it was happening, and that this stuff was real.
Yeah, in his, I think it was like his last three published novels, which was a trilogy, was basically him. Was his like I guess you could call it autobiographical fiction, where he told the story of his having been met with God through a pink laser beam and whatnot, and given information.
Sounds like a really good acid trip.
Yeah.
Philip. But is there anything else you want to share about the novel? Characters, setting, what sets it apart from other post-apocalyptic stories?
Probably what would set it apart from other post-apocalyptic stories, the only other post-apocalyptic novels and I could think of would be like The Road, would be that it bounces back in between various timelines. Like you'll have the 80s before the war, then you have leading up to it in the 90s, and then you have Tom's timeline, which is 2028, and then you have the future, which is 2375. Also, this isn't just Tom's story. You get the narratives of the antagonists, Pierce and Elizabeth, as well as minor characters. You kind of get their stories, which lead into Tom's narrative, to kind of more as world building than plot driven there. I would say the ending probably would set it apart from other post-apocalyptic novels, but
well, that would be a spoiler.
yeah, I'll say, but I can't really give that away. But that's what I'm gonna stick with that. The ending is what sets it apart.
Very cool. Now your other two books, are they science fiction too?
No. I mean, there is a science fiction-esque element in the first one, which is called Division Street, where it's set in a dystopic alternate. Well, when it was written, it was the future, but now it's an alternate history because it takes place in 2017. But there's this drug that's on the streets which can send you to another timeline where you can kind of either relive your life how you remember it, or you can make different choices. The main character of which chooses it to be with his dead girlfriend who died a year before the book starts. And then the second one is what I call a mock memoir, where it follows the writer of Division Street, who goes by the name of Jordan, and it kind of goes with his story where he lost his mind after writing Division Street, and you're kind of reading his. It's a redemption story, to put it simply, but you're reading his kind of like psychosis throughout the entire novel.
Very interesting. I mean, I'd say at least the first one still qualifies as science fiction. If there's a drug that allows you to see in alternate reality, that's an interesting concept.
Well, then we'll call that one science fiction, but the other one's not science fiction at all.
Yeah, still sounds intriguing. So why the name Arcadia?
There's a connection to Greek mythology within the novel, which there's a character, one of the antagonists, his initials are Pan, which spell out Pan, who was the god who ruled over Arcadia, and essentially that's why I named that Arcadia. The Arcadia is essentially it's the program which the people in the real world, they've coined that artificial world Arcadia, just to kind of have a name for it, but my reasoning for it is the Greek mythology connection.
Interesting. So where would potential readers be able to pick up your new novel?
They can pick it up on Amazon.com. Depending on which country you're in, you'd have to add, UK or whatever at the end. I also have it available to where if you go to a brick and mortar store, say your Barnes & Noble or Books A Million or Borders. Is Borders still around?
No.
No, never mind. You can't pick it up at Borders.
The corpses of Borders litter the country, literally. I drive past one every day.
Shows how much I keep up with that. But no, you can pick it up either at a brick and mortar. I mean, they won't carry it, but if you want to order it there, you can order it there. But Amazon.com probably be, everyone's first choice.
All right. Okay. So, what kind of music do you typically listen to while you write?
I listen to mostly instrumental music, but there is one band that while they do have lyrics, it's not the focus, and that band is Swans.
Swans.
They've been around since the 80s. They took a brief hiatus in 96 and then came back in 2010. The music of theirs I listen to is primarily the 2010 to 2016.
Yeah, I always find it interesting when I ask other writers that, because like I listen to straight up death metal sometimes while I'm writing,
Nice.
or ambient tracks, synth wave. It depends on what I'm writing. But some people, they can't have anything interrupting their writing. They have to have complete silence, and I have never been like that. So it's always interesting to hear what people say in response to that.
Yeah, I've tried writing in silence, and I go insane. Um,
Me too.
one time I had to tell my friend who was like, he was quietly listening to Opeth, and I'm like, please turn that up. And he's like, okay. And we listened to, I think, 3 albums from them just so I could write.
Yeah, Opeth kind of blends together after a while.
Yeah, every song after a while just sounds the same because it's blaring guitars, acoustic breakdown, solo, blaring guitars,
and then a slow middle section somewhere, and then it picks back up. Yeah,
and then it blends right into the next song.
Yeah, I'm not a huge Opeth fan, so I'm not offended at all.
Okay, well, I think they're more black metal than doom metal.
They're like progressive black something.
Ah.
I've been getting into stoner rock lately, like Elder and this other band. What are they called? Mother Engine. They're a German band.
I've heard of Mother Engine.
Yeah, Elder is fantastic. If you like Mother Engine, you'll really dig Elder.
Okay.
Like, it's this whole stoner rock movement. It's kind of like post-metal almost, and it's really fascinating to hear it developing. There's also a band called DVNE. It might be pronounced Divine, but it's the letters DVNE, and their latest album is fantastic. If you like Mastodon, if you like sludge metal and the newer stoner rock like Mother Engine and Elder and stuff like that, then you'll love DVNE. They're fantastic.
I will have to look those guys up.
Yeah, I basically drive a truck for my day job. I listen to music all the time, so I'm always looking for new stuff, which is probably why I'm always writing, because it's always giving me ideas.
Yeah,
so, go ahead.
Other than Swans, it's mostly kind of like 90s post-hardcore. Like there's a band called Quicksand, which really kind of gets the words flowing.
Nice. So what's your essential element? What do you need to write, like your space or whatnot? Because I do hear your kid in the background, so I assume you sometimes have to deal with having a baby on your lap as you're trying to get those word counts in, right?
Usually one of the things that has to happen for me to write is for him to be asleep, because he sees the laptop and he goes, "I'm going to help you write, Dad."
Oh, so he's like a cat.
Yeah, pretty much. Even if I'm trying to like read a book or something, he'll want to read for me. He'll grab the book and just start flipping through the pages.
Yeah.
But other than him being asleep, either Gatorade or coffee.
Yeah, I basically live off of coffee, which is probably not a good thing.
It's probably not.
No. A couple interviews ago, I was on a call with D. William Lansborough, and I basically started that interview with coffee and scotch to wake myself up. It's funny, my friend, he's always telling me that he's got to have like a glass of scotch next to him or something while he's writing, but I really do not think it helps to be in any kind of altered state while writing.
I can attest to that. There were many chapters of Division Street that were written under not finished chapters, but original draft chapters of Division Street where I was kind of inebriated. And I woke up thinking, what the hell did I just write? This is shit.
Yeah, it just doesn't work. I find my best writings done right after I wake up, and I usually wake up pretty early as I'm having my coffee. Like if I have a laptop in my lap or if I'm sitting in my office or something, usually that first hour is crucial to getting those word counts in.
Yeah, I tend to wake up earlier now since my kid to wake up earlier get the writing done before anyone's awake, because once everyone's awake, I have to wait till about 10 p.m. to really get anything done after that.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Uh, that would be tough. So we often talk about giving advice to new fledgling writers who are just starting their indie author journey. So what's one bit of advice that you would give somebody who's just starting out now?
The advice I would probably give to a new starting writer would be, if you think your idea is a little out there and it's not going to do well or anything, I say go with your original idea. Let your freak flag fly, because someone's going to enjoy your idea. You just got to have faith in yourself and, network on Twitter, talk about it. Someone's bound to go, that's an interesting idea, I would love to read that, and you'll probably have a beta reader or a critique partner out of that. So don't be afraid to chase the weird ideas, is what I would say.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, at times I felt like that because I do delve into more crazy areas, cosmic horror, Lovecraftian stuff. But whenever I tell people about my projects, they're all just like, oh, when can I read that?
Yeah.
I'm always surprised by the response. So I always tell people, don't be afraid to talk about your ideas. Learn how to talk about your ideas. Learn how to get in front of people and just... Because, we're naturally introverts, so it's difficult sometimes to know what to say and to not feel like you're burdening somebody with all of this crazy shit that rattles around in your head.
And I also feel like for writers, it's easier to talk about projects with other writers because they're a weirdo as well, as opposed to a non-writer or reader, someone who doesn't read, which is baffling to me. They're just going to stare at you like you're speaking another language after maybe 3 sentences, and then it just gets weird.
Yeah, I always ask ahead of time, do you read?
Yeah, Cosmo doesn't count.
No, it doesn't. Neither does BuzzFeed.
Oh, God, no.
So, I do have a question.
Yes.
And typically these usually come a lot faster for me, but since it has been a long day and a cold day too, I'm a little bit slower to come up with questions. So what are some of the difficulties? You did mention some things like having to wait until your kid's asleep and everything, but what are some of the other difficulties that you've found with having a kid or a young child and trying to pursue your indie author dreams that you might be able to share with somebody who probably has similar time constraints?
Well, I would say even if you go days without writing because maybe your kid, depending on age, mine's going to be 1 at the end of this month. If they're teething or if they're having a bad day, give your attention to your child. Just kind of jot notes down on either a notepad or something. That way you don't lose the idea.
Seems like he agrees.
And sometimes it takes those days off where you're not writing, and then when you finally get back to it, you actually are able to articulate it in the way you wanted to, instead of rushing to that idea as soon as it comes in your head.
So in a way, it's almost like an advantage for you.
Yeah, although it's a frustrating advantage, because there's not a day that goes by where it's like, I really need to write. Like right now, I'm working on my 4th novel, and I haven't written in about 6 days, but I try to look at it positively, like maybe I'm just not ready to write what I want to write. But it's the disadvantage of it is I set a timetable for myself, and it's like, well, now I'm like 6 days behind.
Yeah, I felt really weird because I decided to take the rest of the holidays off, and I usually I plow through and I just keep writing and writing and writing even towards the end of the year. But it was different because I was like, I already had like 100,000 words plus written for that year, and I really needed a break from everything.
Yeah.
So I don't know. So it might actually help you out in the long run, keep you from burning out. That's pretty cool.
But there's because how writers get those brand new ideas while they're working on their current project, and it's like you kind of want to speed through the current one to get to the next one, kind of thing. That's where I'm at right now. But I got to tell myself it's okay to finish it for maybe a year or two instead of trying to knock it out before summer.
Yeah, I don't really do that myself because if something is taking up all of my mental focus, Like, if these ideas are just coming, then I'm just switching rails. I know I'll come back to that other project, but for the time being, it seems like I need to go where the muse is pointing me. And they say not to do that, but I've actually had quite a bit of success with that. So I don't know. I think, honestly, like, a lot of that comes down to preference and how you are individually as a writer. If you know you're going to be able to come back to that project, then by all means, right away on this other thing, if you're more passionate about that, it'll show.
Yeah, I'm not the kind of writer that can do that, unfortunately, the bouncing back and forth. I tried it early on, which is why it took 5 years to finish the first novel, because I would bounce to the second novel and write for a little bit, and then I had the idea for Arcadia and I'd write on that for a little bit. And when people would ask, oh, how's the novel coming along, you don't want to be like, oh yeah, I'm working on 3 other projects or whatever. So I kind of hunkered down and say, like, I told myself I'm only going to work on the main project, have the other ones on the back burner, because otherwise I would never get anything done.
Yeah, I can definitely understand that. Although that is exactly what I tell people when they ask me how the novel's coming. I'm like, which one?
Yeah, I've had that question before, which, again, if they're not a writer or a reader, they just kind of glaze over as soon as you start talking about the one that they're not familiar with.
I don't know. He seems to be speaking some wisdom over there.
Oh, yeah. He's directing the dog where to go.
Straight to in and out. Have you shared everything that you want to share about the book?
I have been told by beta readers and my editor that I'll probably add it to the blurb, but I will say it here. There are trigger warnings for those who have dealt with sexual assault of any kind, and also there is cannibalism, and it's very graphic. So if you have a weak stomach, I would maybe just gloss over those parts, or because I mean it's very slow paced when it gets to those scenes. So it's not like bam in your face, but like you can see it coming from a mile away. So just kind of look for when that scene is over, and you'll be fine. There's nothing plot heavy in those scenes. Other than that, I would say just enjoy it.
Yeah. Well, all that sounds fantastic. Once again, where can they find your upcoming book, Arcadia?
If you want to buy Arcadia, just go to Amazon.com. Look for Arcadia by Jonathan D. Clark. The cover art will be black and white, kind of grayscale. It's an atomic explosion. If you find anything else with the title Arcadia that is not that, it is not my book. Please do not buy it. Well, you can buy it if you want. I'm just saying.
I'm also going to have a... okay, and if they want to follow you on social media?
If you want to follow me on social media, I am on Twitter. The handle is JD Clark Novelist. And on Instagram, it's JD Clark Official. And Facebook is JD Clark Books.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for coming on. Bit of a shorter podcast, but I think it was still pretty good. I hope your book does well, and let me know how it goes.
I will. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. You have a nice night.
You too.
Well, that was our show. Once again, this has been Into the Ashlands podcast. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button, ring that bell, because YouTube is stupid, and I will see you on the next Into the Ashlands podcast. Just a quick heads up, my novel Echoes of Olympus Mons is currently available for pre-order on Amazon and will be releasing on April 11th of this year. I also created a street team for those of you who would like to read the novel before it comes out and review it on day one. Members get access to the Mobi and PDF file, and I may have a special deal including signed copies. Shoot me a message on Facebook for more details on that. Now, this does mean that members will have to buy a copy on day one in order for their reviews to be verified. If you're planning on picking up the book anyway, this is a great way to help spread the word and make this book launch as big as possible. To join, go ahead and follow the link in the description. Thank you so much.